No one deserves to be mistreated. That's what Yakima Police Department and YWCA is trying to spread. They gave these individual cards to each individual person that was participating today, and they got to go through somebody else's story to really understand what types of decisions they're making in domestic violence situations.
Being in that situation in their shoes is like, okay, it's like an eye-opener for them as well. It's not as easy as we thought.
The YWCA partnered with Yakima Police Department to put on a domestic violence scenario from the victim's perspective. Organizations part of the newly developed Domestic Violence Coalition of Yakima participated.
Part of that is to help people understand how difficult it is for survivors sometimes to maneuver throughout the community and having to go to all the different businesses and all the different questions and things that happen.
This is a way to educate people working in the legal system, police department, family and child care, and other agencies that work with people dealing with domestic violence. Participants take on a person's life, read through a story,
do you know how bad it is for kids to hear their parents fight?
And make a decision based on their scenario.
What happens, card one? What happens?
One of the organizers told me that she wanted to help victims with domestic violence because one of her close friends was one.
I'm originally from Indiana, where I started, and one of my good friends who worked in domestic violence shelter was murdered. And so I just, I was already committed to the YWCA and its mission to empower women and eliminate racism. But when somebody has been murdered, you don't want to turn your back on somebody. You just don't want to walk away and not care.
A police lieutenant said it helps to put yourself in their shoes.
Because it reminds them why they're doing what they're doing and the importance of working together, the importance of understanding that person's story and their backstory and how that relates to whatever the issue is that's risen to the surface.
Many people in the audience, including the Yakima County prosecutor, were able to see from a different perspective.
It is something that I have taken for granted, regardless of whether I'm a prosecutor or not, for all my life. I've never been the victim of domestic violence, but it's amazing how you get to that very base mode that I and everyone probably to some degree takes for granted.
35% of all calls for Yakima Police Department are domestic violence related. Yakima Domestic Violence Coalition is hoping to continue to help combat the issue facing in the Valley. In Yakima, I'm Sophia Lesios.